A rider walked into a shop with $800 saved over 6 months. He left with a $3,000 bike financed over 2 years. 3 months later, it was hanging in his garage collecting dust. The shop assistant was friendly. The advice felt genuine. It wasn't wrong, exactly. It just wasn't for him. The biggest mistake isn't spending too much. It's ending up with a bike that slowly convinces you cycling isn't for you. If you've ever wondered why a bike shop seems to always recommend the same few brands, the answer has nothing to do with which bike is best for you. Shimano or SRAM? Carbon or aluminum? The real question is who decided before you even walked in. 50 years ago, most bike shops were built around a mechanic. Someone who had ridden everything, fixed everything, and stocked what they genuinely believed lasted longest and rode best. The recommendation came from the workbench, not the boardroom. That shop still exists in some places. It's becoming rarer every year. The shift didn't happen overnight. It happened through a series of individually reasonable decisions that, taken together, changed what a bike shop actually is. Brands needed consistent distribution. Independent shops needed reliable supply, competitive pricing, and products that arrived on time. The solution was a tiered dealer program. Shops that committed to stocking a certain volume of one brand's products got better wholesale pricing, priority allocation, and marketing support. Reasonable for everyone involved. What it created, over time, was a retail floor that reflected brand relationships more than product merit. A shop carrying mostly one brand's bikes didn't necessarily choose that brand because it was best. They chose it because the economics of the relationship made everything else harder. By the 2000s, the major brands had formalized this entirely. Dealer training programs, co-op advertising funds, floor display requirements, demo fleet subsidies, each one a legitimate business arrangement, each one quietly shaping what a rider sees when they walk through the door. The mechanic's opinion didn't disappear. It just started operating inside a system the mechanic didn't build. By the time a bike reaches the showroom floor, most of the decision-making has already happened. The rider is often the last person involved. The first is volume rebates, and it's the one that shapes everything else. Most major bike brands offer shops a retroactive discount once they hit a certain annual sales threshold. The closer a shop gets to that number, the stronger the financial incentive to push that brand over any competitor, regardless of what the customer actually needs. A shop 95 of the way to its threshold in November is a fundamentally different shop than the same store in February. Same stuff. Same bikes on the floor. Completely different pressure behind every conversation. The rider never sees the calendar. The incentive is there regardless. Picture two customers walking into the same shop, one in February, one in November. They ask the same question. They describe the same budget. They may not get the same recommendation. The second mechanism runs deeper: demo fleets. Brands supply shops with bikes for test rides at heavily subsidized cost, sometimes free. The catch is that demo fleets are brand-specific. A shop with a full fleet from one brand isn't going to hand a curious rider a competitor's bike to try. The first bike you ride shapes what feels normal. The second bike always feels slightly wrong by comparison, even when it isn't. That's not an accident. It's just how first experiences work. The brand that gets there first wins the comparison before it starts. The third mechanism is the most uncomfortable one, because it doesn't feel like a mechanism at all. Brands run technical training for shop mechanics and sales staff. Free, professionally delivered, and genuinely useful. A mechanic who completes that training becomes more confident diagnosing, servicing, and recommending that brand's products. That confidence is real. It translates directly into better customer advice. It was also built by the brand that benefits when the mechanic recommends it. The expertise isn't false. Its origin is just rarely mentioned. 3 mechanisms. Each one a legitimate business arrangement. Each one invisible to the rider at the counter. And each one slightly more personal than the last, moving from financial pressure to physical first impressions, to the expertise of the person you trust most in the shop. And once you understand how those incentives actually work, the next question becomes obvious. What do you do with that information the next time you walk into a shop? None of what you just heard is illegal. None of it is unique to cycling. Car dealerships, electronics retailers, and pharmacy chains all operate inside similar structures. The difference is that most people expect a car salesman to have a preferred brand. Most people still expect a bike shop mechanic to be neutral. That expectation gap is where the problem lives. Understanding the system doesn't mean distrusting every shop recommendation. Most shop staff are genuinely knowledgeable and want to help. The incentive structure shapes the conversation. It doesn't replace the expertise behind it. What it does mean is knowing how to read the conversation differently. First, ask what brands the shop doesn't carry, and watch how they answer. A shop confident in its recommendations explains why certain brands didn't make the cut. A shop operating heavily inside its brand relationships often gives a much shorter answer. The answer to that question tells you more about the shop than anything on the floor does. Second, walk past the sales floor and find the mechanic. Ask them which group set they'd put on their own bike with their own money. The sales floor has a preferred answer. The mechanic's workbench usually doesn't. Third, test ride something you weren't recommended. If a shop has a demo fleet, ask specifically for a brand that isn't being pushed to you. The reaction tells you something. A confident shop with genuine expertise welcomes the comparison. A shop operating heavily inside its brand relationships often finds a reason why that bike isn't available today. The system that shapes what you're shown isn't going away. The brands benefit from it. The shops depend on it. And most of the time, the bikes at the end of it are genuinely good products. But good products chosen for you by someone with no financial stake in the decision, that's a different thing entirely. The next time a shop assistant tells you this is the best bike for your needs, they might be right. Now you know how to find out. That rider didn't buy the wrong bike because he lacked knowledge. He bought it because he trusted the room he was standing in. The room had already made its recommendation. Now you know what's in the room. Comment below. Has a shop ever steered you towards something that turned out to be wrong for you?